All right, we are back finally on the Patriots Press podcast, where we talk about the Somerset Patriots. I'm Greg Johnson, joined again by Matt Kardos and Mike Ashmore. We have been gone for, what has it been now? Eight months, guys.
It's been a while.
Yeah, I think we were planning one more pod at the end of September. Things kind of came up. Patriots got swept in the playoffs. I think most people know that. And then this year, we were meant to be back on a little bit sooner, but April was a little crazy. And I think we were all out to dinner last night talking about how it's probably the busiest April we've ever had, just between Rehabs and the Yankees' top prospect, George Lombard, had an amazing month and got called up before the end of the month, which I think we're all a little bit surprised by, and some big power numbers from the team so far. So, a lot to dive into. Matt, what are some of your first impressions of how things are going and just what April was like?
Yeah, I think we all kind of brought it up, and I think we're all in agreement that I think the thing that stands out the most, obviously, is the offense for the team so far. When that break camp roster first come out, there's a lot of, besides Lombard, who's the top prospect in the org, there's a lot of question marks with that roster, guys that have been around in AA for a while, some guys that came over on, minor league deals from other teams that are kind of performing now. And then you had guys that were there a little bit last year that didn't necessarily live up to the potential that they had. So it seems though that through that first month of the season now, a week into May, there's all these guys are kind of performing to their potential or even beyond what we thought was possible for some of these guys. Like, Garrett Martin, who, we asked, I remember last year asking new hitting coach at that point, Mike Francoso, like, who stood out in minor league spring training. We don't see those games. So he pointed out Garrett Martin. And then I asked the same thing again this year to James Cooper on media day. And same thing. He said Garrett Martin was a guy that stood out to him. And, he didn't start off very well. So 2 years in a row, I'm like, wow, it's very interesting that they pointed this guy out 2 years in a row, that he had a big spring, but necessarily, didn't come into the season super hot. But he has 7 home runs over his last 9 games. He's tied for the league lead in 10. So, he's kind of emerged, and he's tied with Marco Luciano, who, that's a name everybody's known in the prospect space. Not that long ago, 2 years ago going into the season, he's a top 100 prospect. And not that long before that, he was a top 15 prospect in all of baseball by Baseball America. So it's obviously a guy with a huge pedigree that, just for whatever reason, it didn't work out in San Francisco. He's here. He's probably not thrilled to be in AA. It's kind of wild that he's in AA, but he's doing what he's got to do to get out of there, right? So just guys like that, Kobe Morales and Jay Savina has now started coming on. Just all these guys that had different question marks. Tyler Hardman, who's been in AA for quite a while now. It's hard to believe he hasn't had a run in AAA at this point, and I think he's kind of earning that right at this point too. So. I think the offense and the way that it's emerged, their home run total, I think they're at 56 or something like that, leads all AA in runs by a pretty wide margin right now. It's just an incredible run that they've been on, and I think that's really what stands out, how much further the hitting is along than the pitching at this point.
Yeah, I mean, when we came into the year, I think we were looking at the roster and we kind of thought, especially looking at some of the high-profile prospects, that this was going to be more of a team leaning on its pitching than it's hitting. Like you said, they lead AA with 56 home runs, but the team right now is 13-16 and in 4th place in the division, largely because of the pitching hasn't lived up to the billing. Mike, what have you seen on that end of things just so far?
I get to be negative. Yay, my specialty. Not a lot of good, man. It's been a little surprising, I guess. Ben has got off to a good start, but he goes down, he gets hurt.
Right.
Kyle Carr's kind of struggled. Trent Sellers had a really good start and has mostly struggled otherwise. Revis is trying to fit in. Jack Siebert came in and did pretty well in his debut. A lot of the bullpen arms have struggled. They have a 5.55 team ERA. That's second from the basement in the Eastern League. It's not going to get it done. I believe the whip is somewhere in the 1.4s, 1.429 as a staff. That's, it's not going to get it done. They're not going to win most nights. with that kind of pitching production. So there's some guys kind of in the pipeline from Hudson Valley and Tampa as well, who are probably going to make their way up as some of these arms either filter up or filter out. But for right now, it's been kind of a struggle. And like Matt was saying, the record is kind of reflective a lot more of the pitching performance than it is the some of the hitters who have stood out so far.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's focus a little bit on some positives right now. I mean, I think the big thing we need to talk about to kind of get this out of the way, because he's no longer here, but we saw him all throughout April. George Lombard Jr. obviously had a sensational April. That's why he's in AAA right now. I think we all kind of thought, all right, he has a hot start. Maybe like Memorial Day is kind of an opportune time to bring him up. And the Yankees just said, heck with it. He's for 20 games, he was just breaking here. So they moved him up to AAA. The big thing early in the season, which we talked to him about, was that he actually changed his batting stance a little bit in the offseason, where his hands are now, instead of being kind of over his shoulder, his hands are more in front of him. And we asked him about that. I think I actually asked him that question after the first game of the season. We were all there on opening day, and he said, it's just a more comfortable position. It's easier for me to get to my spot more consistently. He's very open about, talking about things like that. And I think we all feel like he's just been a very mature guy for a top prospect. He's just very open about talking about really anything. And usually you see top prospects as being a little more guarded in interviews, especially hitters. And he's been very, very mature and I think thought-provoking with some of the stuff he's had to say. And obviously he mashed for 20 games here. I think he had, around 30 extra base hits or so. No, I apologize. He said 12. He had 12 extra base hits in 90 plate appearances with Somerset for the first 20 games, which obviously, was a huge jump in the power department from where he was last year. I mean, in AA last year for 108 games, his OPS was 695. This year jumped up to 971. Obviously, 20 games is 20 games. It's a small sample. It doesn't mean he's going to just now rush into the big leagues and he's ready to start hitting, major league pitching. But, do you guys feel like, even though it wasn't a huge amount of time this season, that he had kind of figured out AA, and that, I guess also just given some of what the Yankees are dealing with, like, for example, they've had a hole at third base really throughout the year, and he's been playing some sort of third base, that's a spot he could play late in the season, maybe if they need help there still, that it made sense to move him up to AAA for that reason too, to kind of just see what he can do there.
Yeah,
kind of what you got.
Yeah, no, I think it's a little bit of everything for him. The adjustments that he made, you kind of went in pretty depth, like you said, went in depth with him about that, and him recognizing that, he had to make some changes and get his hands in a better spot in order to impact the baseball. And, he did that early on. He was hitting the ball with authority all over the field, to, hitting it to the gaps all over the place. So he had a plan. He recognized that he had to change some things, and he kind of put them into place. I know when he was in Somerset, when we had talked to him, I think he had looked his line drive percentage, which, the metrics on line drives, they often fall for hits. It was up almost 12% from where it was a year ago. I think it's now since he's gone up, he's not having the same rate of success in his, first week at AAA, but I think it's now down to like 8% up from last year. But I think that's really what was, driving his early success, was that he was hitting the ball with authority, hitting it on a line, keeping the ball off the ground, which he did so much last year. He hit the ball a lot on the ground, ran into problems with there. But he looks a little bit bigger, added some muscle, not a ton, but he's definitely looks more filled out than he did a year ago. And, he's still only 20, which is wild, and that comes with the territory, right? It's the whole thing that Volpe had to deal with, the top prospect, shortstop, being so young. He's wearing the same cape that Anthony Volpe had to wear a couple of years ago. And Lombard Jr. didn't have the greatest debut at AA last year. I think we all know that. And you heard about it all winter on social media. Everybody kind of doubting whether this guy still was the goods. We all know he could play major leagues right now defensively. It's the bat that needed to come. And in that first month of the season, I mean, he did everything that he needed to do to show that there is potential there in the bat. So I think he more than earned his ticket out of Somerset. I'm a little surprised at how soon it came. I would have liked to see a bit longer of a sample size, especially given how young he is at only 20. I would have probably liked to see him do it through the end of May to, make sure it's real and not just a hot start. But obviously the Yankees felt they saw what they needed to see to give him a bigger challenge, and we'll see how he does once he gets up there at Scranton. But yeah, I'm not shocked, but I definitely was a little bit surprised just at the timing of it. I guess is especially when they did it. Like one game into the series while Volpe was just like the timing of it was weird. But I've seen enough from the bat in the first month to know that I think these changes that he made have carried over into his approach.
Yeah, for sure. Just to second that to an extent. I think he pretty much proved all he was really going to be able to do in AA, and it was probably about that time. Again, the timing of it was weird. It was after a Tuesday night game in a series. If you're going to do it, just send them before the start of the series. Whatever, that whole thing was weird. It's good to see him kind of getting that positional versatility, like Matt talked about as well. The night we're recording this, he's playing second for Scranton. He's played a lot of third. He's played some short. I know they probably want to keep Volpe at short while he's in Scranton for however long that is. I guess the one thing I would be a little bit concerned about is kind of the pattern with struggling at a new level right away. It's such a small sample size in Scranton right now. It's literally 10 days, but I think he's hitting like 200, and the stats are a little bit more reflective of what they were over that pretty big sample size in Somerset last year, which is fine because, again, if he repeats the pattern and goes back to Scranton to start next year and doesn't end up getting to the big leagues at the end of this year, he'll probably rake there and get called up. But if he struggles at a new level next year, that's going to be the big leagues, and that's not going to play. So I'm all in on the kid. I love the kid. Like you guys were talking about, he's an incredibly mature, polished, just really good kid. He will talk for as long as you want. He's always available. He was great to deal with. I have nothing but good things to say about the kid. As Matt said, as a defender you put in the big leagues right now, pretty much anywhere, he will get you a pretty positive number there and defensive runs saved. But I do kind of worry about the pattern with the bat, but only time will tell on that. So, but ultimately I think he's going to be fine. Again, just 20 years old. So like you guys were saying, he's going to be fine.
Yeah, I mean, I think just to compare him a little bit to Volpe, I mean, Volpe, I guess, was a little bit past 21 when he went to AAA. I think, and I was looking actually at Volpe and George's stats in high AA. Volpe stats in AA 4 years ago compared to George this year, and they were actually more similar than I thought in terms of spraying the ball around the field, strikeout to walk ratio, stuff like that. So just for just to remind people that look, it's a big jump. So I mean, we'll see. If he like Mike was just saying, he's struggling a little bit in AAA so far. It's only been a few games, so obviously no need to panic there. But yeah, I mean, I don't think anyone can look at what he did in AA start of the season and say, oh, here's our savior late in the year. I mean, look, maybe he'll come up to the Yankees late in the season and do really well, but it's just such a big jump for hitters, right? I mean, I think hitters even more than pitchers. It's just because there's so many guys, like Marco Luciano is a guy who's, he's an outfielder. So, I mean, who knows if he'll get a shot in the big leagues with the Yankees. We'll see, but he's a perfect example of a guy who, as of right now, it's like he's one of those quote unquote like quadruple A guys who's has had no problems hitting minor league hitting, but pitching rather. But the big leagues has been a different story. But yeah, man, I love George's makeup so much. One thing that's always stood out to me when he talks and you interview him is that he kind of what I find just so interesting is how he often pauses and he really thinks about what he's going to say to you. He's very deliberate with what he says. He doesn't just start rambling, not to say that a lot of other guys do that, but I just think it's nice that he really tries to give you a thoughtful answer on everything. And not that that's indicative whether he's going to be a good big leaguer or not. And I don't know how much fans care per se about that sort of thing. But to me, it's just worth pointing out as another aspect of his maturity, and he just seems like a very intellectual guy who, works hard on his craft. And I think to make as drastic of a swing change as he did in the offseason, shows a kid who's really committed to getting better. And but yeah, he's got plenty of time. He's 20. I mean, Spencer Jones, who we dealt with last year in AA for a while, he's 25 now. Just got called up to the Yankees today, so for the first time. Obviously you don't want to, not saying that George should, you don't want him to be in the big leagues or in the minor leagues till he's 25. But I mean, if he needed, if he wasn't ready for the big leagues till next year, till he's 21, even, that's,
it's totally fine.
Yeah.
I think schedule. Yep.
Yeah. I think you don't really want to bring him up this year if, one, he's just doing so well in AAA and they just really are not getting production out of third base or shortstop. Because I think right in a perfect world, you wanted him to just keep developing, take his time, because you don't want him to, if he does really well in AAA and then he goes up and he seems a little overmatched, you don't want to, that wouldn't be ideal, right? So maybe having rushed him a little bit. I mean, it's nice to let him marinate in AAA for a while now, especially because the sample size of doing well in AA was pretty small.
I think a fascinating dynamic, though, to Lombard Jr. now is also where is he in the hierarchy of shortstops for the org? Because, you could say what you want about Caballero winning the job and Volpe getting optioned to AAA, but optioning Volpe to AAA, I think, is, it's not an easy thing to do. And I think the franchise doing that, whether it lasts 2 weeks or 2 months, them putting Volpe back there, I think, it warranted or not, it's going to open the door to people like us and people on social media to debate, does Lombard have the chance to even, overtake Volpe in the hierarchy of if they need a shortstop in 2 months and they're both hitting, would they go to the kid? Would they go to Volpe? It just opens an interesting dynamic of where he is now. Because I think there is an argument that can be made. He could be getting close to, surpassing him almost in terms of the way the organization views them long term. And they're now teammates, right? They're the reps are going to be kind of delegated and moved around a little bit. So I just think it's just an interesting thing to kind of follow as the next couple weeks and months roll around. How do they manage that dynamic? Assuming, Caballero keeps hitting and Volpe's in AAA. If in 2 weeks Caballero goes into a 2 for 20 slump and they're feeling like he's not really carrying his weight anymore, I think there's a chance, Volpe's the shortstop again in 2 weeks. And we all forget this little hoopla this week happened about him being optioned. But if the odd off chance that doesn't happen and they're both in AAA for the next 2 months, I think it's fascinating to kind of see where they kind of both kind of fall once the middle of the summer rolls around, where they're both at.
Yeah, I think it's interesting, because Lombard and Volpe are essentially competing against each other now in AAA, right? Where it's whichever one outperforms the other could be the one called up. I mean, obviously, George is not going to be called to the major leagues anytime soon. I mean, Volpe, you figure, has to have the leg up just because you need to have George in AA or AAA for at least a couple months, right? I mean,
sure.
But certainly later in the season, whoever's playing better, I think, could be that guy. Or you could, if they both play well, maybe Volpe's playing short and Lombard at third, that kind of thing. Or there's obviously been talk that, Volpe, if the Yankees do move him off short, maybe he becomes a second baseman next year because Jazz is going to be a free agent, Jazz Chisholm, and he wants a big contract that the Yankees almost certainly don't want to give him. And let's be real. I mean, George is just a better defensive shortstop than
for sure
Volpe. So you would love to have him play shortstop and not just move him off short to accommodate Volpe. But if they're both playing really well, the reality is he's the more versatile defender. So, I mean, he could fill a big hole for them at third, come August, September, maybe if they think that he can really help them in the playoffs. But yeah, it'll be a really interesting rest of the season in that regard. I guess, Mike, any other closing thoughts on George before we move on?
Not necessarily so much on George, but we have talked about as well as I think a lot of the criticism on Volpe is ridiculous. And it's not, I mean, I get along with the kid fine. I think from an interview standpoint, he's a lot like Jeter was, where he'll say a lot without really saying a lot. He's not as kind of deliberate as I think George is with a lot of his stuff. But I mean, this guy came out like a ball of fire when he, came through Somerset and was with Scranton for whatever it was, like a month or two, and then was up in the big leagues right away. Gold Glove winning shortstop for the Yankees. And what was it, 23 or 24?
Yeah.
Played through whatever he played through with the shoulder stuff last year. If he gets back to the big leagues this year and he's awful, he has no excuses. And I think, it is what it is. But I'm willing to give him the benefit of the doubt that a lot of last year was going through the shoulder stuff. And I still believe that he can be a really big part of the Yankees' plans. He's what, 25, 24, 25?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, writing this kid off like a lot of the people, and certainly my mentions, and I'm sure a lot of your guys as well. I just find that so ridiculous, and I have no reason to think yet that he can't be a big part of things moving forward. And that's not a homer take. I am the first to be negative and be critical when necessary, but I do believe in that kid for sure.
Not you.
Yeah, not me. Granted, a couple of the base running things that came up, both that really didn't get a lot of play video wise in Somerset, and the one that we saw in Scranton the other day, not great. But again, who knows really where his mentality and his head is at, kind of going through the minor league rungs again. So once he gets back up there, we'll see.
Yeah, I can vouch that Mike is not a sugarcoater. I mean, he's I guess known on Twitter as the resident Spencer Jones hater. So
Nice.
Mike
Nice
believes in a
segue.
guy. What's that?
Nice segue.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess we can talk a little bit about Spencer. I mean, we saw him obviously a lot last year. He, he's a guy who's, still striking out a lot, but he's had big power numbers, and the Yankees have lost Jason Dominguez again to an injury. They had lost Stanton. So he's kind of the next man up. And I mean, he's 25 years old. I don't think keeping him, I think obviously he hasn't been called up until now because they just haven't thought he's really ready, but he's 25. You can't be worried about tanking his trade value at this point. It's not like he's got some big trade value sitting in the minor leagues at 25 at this point. Obviously, if you moved him last August or end of July, whatever, last year, while he was super hot, in Somerset, that would have been, kind of peak value for a trade. But I think, at this point, you got to just see what you have with him, right? I mean, he's shown some power, and maybe he goes up there and strikes out and fails, but I think it's just time to see, right?
Yeah, I mean, as I said on Twitter before the call up, if he's not the guy in that situation, that tells you everything you need to know about how the Yankees feel about him and whether they think they can even consider relying on him to play an everyday role in games that may or may not decide a pennant race. K rate in AAA is 32.3%. It's still not good. I think at this point he is what he is.
Correct.
But he's also a guy who, as a lot of the guys in the big league said today after the game, big guy, hit ball far. That's pretty much what you're going to get. Probably average, maybe slightly above average defender. You could probably put him at all three spots in that outfield and you'll be fine. I guess he's probably just going to fill in and left at this point. Yeah, at this point, see what you have. The kid is 25. He's leads the minors in RBI. The last I saw, sink or swim. See what you got. And if he sinks, so be it. But I mean, everything is in place for him to get a fair opportunity to show what he can do. That's what I got. And to be clear, I'm happy for the kid too. I've talked to him plenty. Wasn't always the most forthcoming with some of the answers that he gave, and that is certainly his choice. But I'm happy for that kid. He's put in the work. He has tried seemingly everything in the batter's box with stance and hands and foot placement and different bats and everything to try to get better. He's put in the work. I respect that. So happy for that kid. And I can genuinely tell you, I hope he crushes it up there.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head, Mike, in saying, he is what he is at this point. Like, the sample size is very large enough now to the point where, like, the power is going to be consistent. The power is always going to be there. But I think you could also kind of expect that those high strikeout totals are just part of what he is as a player. And that's okay, right? Like, there are guys out there that are going to hit for a lot of power, but they're going to strike out a lot. And there's been all-star caliber players that have made careers in that. If you hit the ball enough or, get on base enough while striking out, there are places for players in baseball that do that. And so I think the sample size is big enough to kind of expect. I wouldn't, can it happen? Sure. But I don't know going to the big leagues is going to change that, right? Like, I don't think his strikeout total is going to magically go down. I think that's just part of who he is. But to your point, also, they owe it to both the player and the organization to find out what you have here. It's a guy who's been hyped to the moon forever now. He's a guy who I think we were talking about on the pod last year, having this same conversation when, he was mashing towards his run in AA, and he said the same exact thing, that the organization owes it to themselves and the player to now move him up to AAA. What do you have here? And he's a lot of the same that he was in AA. He's hitting a lot of home runs. He's already got 40-something RBIs, I think 41 last I saw. And, I mean, after 1 month to have 41 RBIs, I mean, you're doing some raking there.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he's certainly hit the shit out of the ball to kind of earn this opportunity. And now that there wasn't necessarily a spot up there either, right? Like, Dominguez is above him on the rung. He's been up there already, but now that Dominguez is gone, that spot's there. If it's not him, then he's never going to be the guy. So, you're going to find out, right? I don't know how long he has up there. I don't know what the status of Dominguez is moving forward. I know he's going on the IL with an AC joint issue. I don't know how long that keeps him out, but I imagine he's going to go have at least a 2-week runway to play almost every day. He's going to get some run. He's not going to be one of those guys, because you've seen that a lot in years past too. The Yankees call up some of these guys and they play once or twice a week and they don't perform in those 2 or 3 times a week that they play. And then they get sent down or optioned after 2 or 3 weeks and they're just shuffled up and down and they play in a similar role where you don't see them a lot and it's not enough playing time for them to get in any kind of rhythm or stay hot. So he seems like he's going to have a pretty regular role for what they need him to do. And I think we're going to find out, can he handle it and what they have in this potential guy long-term.
He has to perform, though. He has to, because if he doesn't perform up there, it's going to kill any remaining trade value he has, which he still has some, I think.
He definitely still has some.
Yeah, it's not what it was in the winter, but if he goes up there for 2 or 3 weeks and, just to be flat out honest, sucks, like, that's pretty much what everybody's going to assume that he is a guy who gets up there and can't do it. So he has to go up there and perform no matter how long that window is. So it's going to be interesting to see. Hopefully he's not pressing too much when he's up there. There's a lot of pressure on him up there to do what he's been waiting to do for years.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's certainly been a great story, right, for the Yankees, because like Volpe, this guy's a former first round pick. So that's the other thing that this tells you is that, like, he's been in the minor leagues for a long time, not because the Yankees are trying to punish him. Like, they want to see a first round pick succeed. He just hasn't, been consistent enough with the bat down there. But, like you guys have said, he's got a lot of RBIs. He's walking a lot. He's had power this year. Let's just give him a shot now and see what happens. I mean, I think we're kind of past the point, right, of him being like a centerpiece for a big trade. But I mean, he goes up there and he fails. I mean, it could tank his value a little bit, but I mean, yeah, I'm excited to see what he can do, because last year I called this guy AA veteran on opening day, because hey, he spent a lot of time with us in AA, and he had a great start last year before he went up to AAA. Yeah, I feel like he's been playing the minor leagues for a long time now, and I mean, he kind of has been. He's 25, but yeah, I'm excited to see now what he can do. It's just another farm system product going up there, right? The Yankees have had a lot of them the last few years, with Ben Rice, obviously, is a big one. He's been really their best hitter besides Judge, and a lot of different pitchers. I mean, Schlittler and Warren, who we've had, are now kind of mainstays in their rotation. I mean, Schlittler's probably going to be an all-star this year. So, yeah, be cool to see another guy succeed.
Yeah. And to be fair, I mean, credit to the Yankees just a little bit here. Like, there's plenty of organizations where I've seen hyped number one picks, number one prospects that don't even ever get a call to the bigs, that flame out before that opportunity. So, I mean, the Yankees are now, like you said, Volpe and all these guys, they're at least getting these guys to the big leagues and getting to the point where they're in the conversation to contribute and have contributed at the minors to get that call. So it's just another one now in a recent line of, prospects that are making an impact up there. Austin Wells, guys like that are high picks that are up there. A lot of organizations, just can't develop that well, and they flame out before they get to AA or AAA. So the fact that you're getting your first round picks up there is it's important.
Yeah, we'll see which prep shortstop they take in a couple months, I guess. So.
And Brendan Beck's the other guy who just went up today, make his Yankees debut. We had him last year, start of the year in Somerset, and I think his ERA was under 2 for like the 11 games he was here.
Yeah, he moved quick.
Yeah, a guy who came back from Tommy John, right? He came back, hit Tommy John a couple years ago or 3 years.
Yeah, like right after he signed out of Stanford. Yeah.
Yeah, and like Elmer Cruz, I keep forgetting it's Elmer Cruz, not Elmer Rodriguez Cruz, although he still goes by ERC as his nickname. He also had gone up recently, was in Somerset last year, right? Yeah, for 11 games, 11 starts. We had him too. So yeah, Beck looked like today he struggled a little bit with his command, just like Elmer did a little bit. 3 walks in his few innings, but he gave only 2 runs, and yeah, just another guy gotten to go up there and get an opportunity. And I think a lot of these pitchers at this point, like anyone who's going to contribute this year, it's probably going to be out of the bullpen, really, right? Because the Yankees really have one of the deepest, maybe the deepest staff in baseball right now in terms of rotation. I mean, you've got Schlittler and Warren as your 4 and 5 essentially now, right? Like I think all these guys we're talking about, who we're going to be talking about this year, is pitching prospects. Their impact this year is going to be either as trade bait or out of the bullpen, probably, right? I mean,
yeah. And they're going to have to move even some of that starting pitching depth immediately into the bullpen once, Rodon is coming back Saturday and Cole probably towards the end of this month or the beginning of June. And then at that point, you have to talk about which of these guys is regularly going into the bullpen. And I mean, that's a great problem to have, though, right? I mean, that's not even tapping into your Elmer Rodriguez and Carlos Agrange and Brendan Beck. I mean, you could stash those guys in AAA all year and not really have to worry too much about it. But you're going to have guys, like Ryan Weathers and, Will Warrens of the world. And Luis Heel is still kind of around as a depth piece that could potentially go into the bullpen. So, I mean, you're right, Greg. They really kind of have an embarrassment of depth that, the rotation at Scranton could arguably, jump in and help a lot of rotations in the big leagues right now, at least at the back end. So when you could go 4 or 5 deep of good pitchers at AAA and then have another 2 or 3 starters in your big league bullpen and then have a rotation like they have with the 5 that they're going to throw out there, it's pretty incredible, the depth that they'd accumulated. And a lot of it's guys that they've developed. So all credit to them. That I think it's pretty crazy, though, like, just to go completely off topic, but you had just mentioned like Cam Schlittler, like his emergence, like how big that is for the organization, like came out of nowhere. Like that wasn't on their radar at all. Like they liked him. He had good makeup, like solid stuff, but like the ascension that he's had and to the role that he is in is just, it's remarkable. Even when we saw him last year, like he pitched well, but I don't know that I thought like that was on my card for him.
I remember like we did a pod when he was going up, and I think I made the comment like, listen, like he's been great, but I don't think fans should expect him to go up there and just keep necessarily shoving the way he's been in the minors. I mean, he's been better in the major leagues than he's been in the minors, right? Like,
yeah. I think that's fair. Yeah.
I think it seems like I think I heard comments from the other day. He's been like tweaking with some stuff to try to get his velo up even a little bit more. I mean, it's like Cam Schlittler is now trying to throw like 105 with his 3 fastballs. I mean, it's nuts.
He clocked a couple 4 104s the other day. Like,
yeah, like
just absurd stuff that I did not foresee coming. But like his development just changes the entire. That's a guy who's a number 1, number 2 kind of guy on most teams. That's your number 4, and in a short series when you could have guys like that and just your depth just broadens. It expands so much to where you could absorb a guy where, Luis Heel is, 2 years ago before he got hurt, he's one of the best pitchers in the league. Obviously he hasn't come back to that form, but you could absorb him not being that guy with the emergence of Schlittler. And then, like you said, you have some electric arms that are in AAA that if you need to throw a guy in the bullpen in July, maybe now you're not worrying about trading 3 or 4 prospects for a reliever. You got some electric arms that you could throw in there and see what you have in a relief role. So just a really good situation for the Yankees in terms of their pitching depth for sure.
Yeah. One thing I want to get to when I don't know how much longer we'll stay on here, but just touch a little bit more on the crazy April we just had is obviously we had more rehabs, I think, than we've had for the first month of the season, just because of the offseason injuries the Yankees had. We had Volpe for several games, Cole for 2 starts, Rodon for a start. And I want to pick you guys' brains a little bit on something obviously that I kind of highlighted with Cole, because obviously I guess Gutgate maybe is what we should deem it as. My tweet about Cole that went a little bit nuts on Twitter. People pointing out he has a gut now. I don't know. I think it's a little ridiculous. It's really just kind of the shirt he's wearing. He's rehabbing. It's not a big deal, but I don't know. Maybe I'm making too much of a big deal out of this, but I just found it super interesting that a guy who has been in the major leagues for 13 years and has always had his hands kind of either in front of him or a little bit down, right? Like in his full wind up, is now going over the head. And he said it's something that he just picked up last summer when he was just playing catch during rehab with, I guess, Joe Bell, the Yankees PT and rehab coordinator. And he said it's not a big deal because he's kind of like evolved a little bit over his career doing different things, but it's never been over his head. And it's a little bit of a, I mean, I haven't like clocked the exact timing of it, but I think it's got to be a little bit of a longer delivery. And he said it's just something that he just likes the tempo of it. It really just keeps the tempo of the delivery upbeat. It's fluid. And so I just find that super interesting that he just out of nowhere picked that up. And that's something that he is now using. I mean, this is a guy who's going to the Hall of Fame one day, probably 6-time All-Star. And he kind of mentioned too, just that, I don't know, things just kind of change in your career too. It's not like he necessarily wished he had picked it up sooner. Maybe it's something that is going to help extend his career a little bit. Just a necessary change he has to make as he gets older. I don't really know, but do you guys have any thoughts on that? Cause I just, I don't know, maybe it's just me over highlighting something, but I wanted to pick his brain on that a little bit. And because to my knowledge, he hadn't really said too much about it in spring training when he debuted it. So,
yeah. I know we can swear on here now. Thanks, Kardos, but I will not do that. I will say that I guess he had a lot of time to F around with stuff during his rehab. And that may have played a role in that and trying to reinvent himself a little bit and maybe see things that maybe take a little bit of stress off the elbow and the shoulder and all that stuff as he tries to get some longevity out of the career and fulfill what is a massive, massive contract. So my guess would be he just probably had some time to play around with stuff and take a look at it. But I will also say I give him a lot of credit for going as in depth with you as he did in that answer. I think a lot of what got lost in some of the dumbass replies that you got was the actual content of the conversation. He went into great detail as he did with me and some of the stuff that I asked him as well. And he doesn't know us that we're AA writers. I don't even know if he does that up in the big leagues where he's willing to go into that much detail. So for him to do that I think that speaks volumes of who he is too. So
yeah, I mean, Mike, he gave you a great answer too when you asked about just rehabbing in general and how he kind of just to sum up the answer. I mean, he was sort of going on about how look, we're not here just kind of going through the motions. There's stuff I gotta work on, and to really, because when the whole point of rehabbing is that you need to get to a place where you're able to go back to the big leagues and perform right away, because we're getting paid a lot of money. We don't have time when we're up there to be screwing around and taking time to get back to things. There's a lot of stuff these guys have to work on during their rehab, just different pitches they're trying to work on, or different strategies with attacking hitters, location, stuff like that, where especially a guy coming out from TJ, it's a lot more than just building up his pitch count. There's so many things that he's working on. And so yeah, I guess maybe that got a little bit lost on Twitter too, because everyone was just having a field day with the guy's weight, which
yeah,
ridiculous.
Which he does not even look that like we've talked about it ad nauseum. So I mean, we could mention it, but like you were caught off guard with why you're, because it was fantastic content. Like you sent me the tweet, I thought it was awesome. Like I was genuinely impressed at the answer he gave, that the intricacy that he provided you and kind of took you into his mind and his reasoning as to why he did that. And I watched it, and at no point did I ever even look at it and think that he looked out of shape or, overweight or any of that. And then you, like the next day, you're like, oh man, this thing's going viral. And I'm like, oh wow, people must really love the answer. And then I looked at the comments and I'm like, oh, this is so dumb. Like,
yeah,
it's almost like as if I was standing right in front of him, right, and posted the same thing, and people didn't really see the gut, no one would have given a crap about the post, right? I mean, that's kind of the unfortunate thing. But hey, I guess if more people saw it because of that, I mean, some people did, respond about the delivery. But I mean, I'm just glad at least people saw it. But yeah, I was just a little ticked on between Twitter and Instagram. I've gotten just so many comments. Just really awful people out there, man. That's the thing you fixate on. And like you said, it doesn't even look that bad. It's not like this guy's like 300 pounds. Like, what are we talking about here?
No, we were in the room, and at no point in your thought process or mine was I like, man, this guy looks fat. Like, didn't at any point cross my mind.
Yeah.
And like you said, Mike, it's so interesting to me how Cole, like sometimes he's just very concise, giving you just a really quick answer.
I know.
And sometimes he goes on like, well. I just thought with my answer it was interesting because the first thing he kind of said was like, I don't really have a good answer for you. And then he just starts talking for like 70 seconds. Like, I guess you do have a pretty good answer. Because I thought that was good. What you said.
Just don't ask him how he's feeling after a start. That's all. And you're fine.
Yeah. Yeah. So for people who don't know, when Cole's first rehabbed, Mike led off in the post game and said, Gerrit, how do you feel? Or how you feeling? Something like that. And he was just like, good. So he had to follow up there. But
that got clipped and got put everywhere, which was wonderful.
Yeah, that's where it ended.
Yeah, well, I think it was the SNY Yankees channel that decided to clip that one part for some reason, like as if they were just going to get reactions to him saying only one word, but then like immediately followed up and he went on more. He went more in depth. So, I mean, I don't really see the point of doing that,
But yeah, to your original question, Greg, I think it is super interesting and like out of the ordinary. Like I don't think that happens very often, if ever, where a guy at his stage that's accomplished as much as he has kind of goes back to the drawing board and reinvents himself a little bit mechanically. I can think of it like Jacob deGrom now has kind of changed his why. It's similar, but it's a lot different than he was when he was younger. And you wonder, he's a Tommy John guy now, 2-time Tommy John guy. Now Cole coming back from the Tommy John thing, like we wonder, kind of like Mike alluded to, like maybe a little bit less stress on the arm, or he finds a little bit less, he's maybe not as compensating somewhere else in this level of comfort and in kind of incorporating this new delivery. So, but whatever the reasoning, it's fascinating that he did it, and I really enjoyed, hearing him go in depth with you about it.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if you guys ever played like MLB The Show, for example, right? Like the video game where you can I think, I don't remember the last time I played it, maybe a few years ago, where you could do like a My Player and you can like literally like, if I remember right, I think you can set like their, like a pitcher, like a certain windup to like the type of windup, right? Like a certain pitcher you want to emulate, like Roger Clemens or Pedro. Like these guys all have like iconic windups, right? Like these guys don't normally do that. It's like where they tweak things. And so like, I don't know, like what is Gerrit Cole's windup now? What is his classic windup? Is it the new one or the old one? I mean, I guess we'll see how it goes with this one. But I mean, one thing he said too was that, his stuff he feels like has been as good or better than out of the stretch. Obviously coming from the stretch when the delivery is faster because guys are on base, that's the same as what it was before. But he said like the feedback's been good so far where, he feels like the stuff's been as good or better with the new windup. So, I mean, we'll see in the big leagues. I mean, obviously the results have not been super good in terms of run prevention in the minor leagues, but he's been throwing strikes and not walking guys, getting a decent amount of strikeouts, I guess. But
sounds like we might see him again too next week, perhaps. Very possible. I guess he's lined up for Sunday in Hudson Valley, and then perhaps Friday in Somerset if he needs that last one. Sounds like he'd be good to go by 2 more. So we'll certainly see. But like you guys were talking about, the results haven't necessarily been there, but I don't care as much in a rehab just because who knows what he's working on or anything like that.
Right.
But yeah, so lines haven't looked great. Rodon got touched up a little bit too the other day, but I mean, there's no concern over him getting back in the big league rotation either. So,
yeah, I think, like you say, he's lined up Sunday again in Hudson Valley. My guess is they moved him. Well, I guess the main reason they had him there and Rodon and Scranton on Tuesday, I think it's because they wanted them both to go Tuesday, and obviously they can't pitch at the same level. So, but it makes sense too to like, I guess, if you're going to have one in low A or high A rather, have it be Cole, because then it's like more natural to then go back up to double A.
Plus you're,
I don't know, but I guess, I mean, he built up to 70 pitches the other day. So, I mean, I think he's got at least 2 more because he'd be at 80 something by next Friday if that's how it pans out. I mean, I thought the Yankees had talked about having him build up and then even repeating it from the whatever high point they want to get him to. So I don't know. It could be even one more after next Friday. We'll see. I mean, because we're still only in early May here. They could keep him there till
Boone. They asked Boone yesterday. Boone said 2 or 3 more. So
okay.
I guess it's open ended at this point. It sounds like there'll definitely be Hudson Valley this weekend. We'll see. Somerset sounds like a solid possibility next week, and then. If that's a Friday, probably take the weekend to evaluate where he's at and just, if they think he needs one more,
right,
wherever they want to send him that following week, or, at that point, you're talking late May at that point anyway. So, see what that kind of entails.
Right. I was going to say, don't hold us to it though, because Scranton is home next week too. So, it could be either one, but generally they prefer to send guys
100% speculation. Like, no.
Yeah. We're just to be clear, we're not saying he's scheduled to pitch or going to be in Somerset next Friday, but it's
really just saying Friday would be the next time he starts in the upper levels. Could be, could be anywhere. I'm not saying it's here or there anywhere.
Right. So, and I guess down the road we might get Dominguez or Stanton. 2 guys are hurt right now. We will see.
Guess that's always a possibility. I mean, you never know. I guess we have to wait and see what the severity of Dominguez is. It kind of got hurt, and then the only update really was that he had cleared concussion protocol, but he had some AC issue with his shoulder.
Yep,
so put him on the IL. But the severity or how long that timeline looks like, I don't think is really clear. At least not publicly right now, like what that time frame looks like for him. So I guess that could be a possibility down the line, but probably won't know till we get a little bit, closer. And Stanton's always a weird one because he doesn't play the field really these days. He's more of just a DH, and so we obviously have had him for 2 different rehab stints with Somerset over the years, but there's also been times where he's been on the IL and just got activated off the IL without even going out on a rehab stint. I know I don't think he's too keen on the rehab deal at this stage of his career. And, just depending on where they think he's at and, if he does enough live BP with the team and stuff like that, they may just activate him right away. You never know with him. He's always a kind of touch and go kind of guy, it feels like. So I guess that's a possibility, but it's also, I wouldn't be shocked if they just kind of, activated him when he was ready.
Mm-hmm. All right, and I guess hopefully mid-season here we'll have more to talk about with some of these high-profile pitchers. Hopefully, you
had a little bit of a just to kind of go into the pitching thing. You had an interview with the pitching coach. She kind of shed a little bit of light on, because I know we've been getting a lot of questions as to what's up with Ben Hess. What I think at least got some kind of on the record, update.
Yeah, I mean, Ben Hess, all he said was he's going through some fatigue right now. I think his arm's a little tired, and they're just giving him some workload management. But he was, I asked him, like, do you have an idea when he'd be, an idea if he'll be back soon? And he just said, not sure. So it's not super optimistic, but I think, like, they're hoping that, I'm just speculating, like, maybe mid-season sometime he comes back, and they hope that he can avoid something more serious, but they're taking a very cautious approach right now, it sounds like. And we might be getting Chase Hampton back at some point. He's been out with Tommy John recovery. He hasn't pitched since August of 24, I think, for Somerset. He threw.
Yeah.
So he could be back sometime early summer, I guess. But I asked him about him as well, and he said that he's just not privy to that because Chase is down in Tampa and
right.
And Dimitri Kokeris, the pitching coach, is with Somerset. So I have a whole Q&A with him if anyone hasn't checked that out, and I've got another story coming out about kind of his unique journey that you want to check out too, because he was a guy who actually he didn't play very much high level baseball himself. He said he kind of even realized in Little League years ago that he didn't really have much of a future in the game, but he just loved the strategy of the game and roster construction and all this stuff, and so really wanted to get into coaching, and so he's got an interesting journey to pro ball as a coach.
Yeah, definitely. Everybody check that out. When is that supposed to drop, Greg?
Actually Friday morning, so I'm not sure exactly when we'll release this, but it probably will be out by the time that people are hearing this. He expressed a lot of optimism that some of these guys like Kyle Carr and Cade Smith, who have struggled so far, are going to work through those struggles and come on stronger this season. I mean, it's small sample so far. Like Kyle Carr is a guy who added I believe it was a curveball in the offseason. And he's just trying to he's still just tweaking with his arsenal because he's got 6 pitches and really trying to figure out what works best. And so, we'll see. I mean, these guys will probably bounce back a little bit this year, and we'll have a little more to talk about with them. But I guess that's kind of the main stuff going forward we've got. I mean, and obviously, a bunch of these hitters are, like we talked about earlier, hitting a lot of home runs. So it's been interesting. I think some of these guys have less of a clear path to the big leagues with the Yankees this year, if we're just talking this year. But I guess that's
I'm most interested to see what ultimately what happens with Marco Luciano. I'm just kind of locked in on what happens with him in the immediate and long term, because he is still only 24 years old, and the Yankees have him at such a low cost. It didn't cost them anything to acquire him. They just got this 24-year-old guy that has over 100 at-bats in the big leagues. He's been an organization's top prospect for 4 years before they got him. So the pedigree is there, the talent is there. And, I also don't want to overreact to a 24-year-old guy who's played in the bigs, mashing AA pitching. But I think when we asked James Cooper about it at the beginning of the season, he said a guy like that, the only way he's going to show people that he's not what he was is if he hits. And, I mean, they put him at this level for a reason, and he's doing that at the very least. So I think, I'm almost skeptical whether he's even going to be with Somerset when they get when they get back home. I think he's got to be, especially now if an outfield spot's going to open up with Jones gone. There's a spot that might be calling his name in AAA at the very least, and at that point, anything can happen. You become a trade chip. Somebody needs another guy, around the league, or if the Yankees, God forbid, Jones or another guy goes down, you put yourself firmly in the conversation once you get up there and you continue to hit. And he's definitely, I think, at least putting himself in the conversation with the way that he's hit in AA to start the year.
Yeah, over the next 2.5 months, it'll be interesting to see kind of what happens with the Yankees roster as far as production injuries, to see where they're at and how the minor leaguers are doing in comparison, and figure out, all right, could any of these guys be moved up, or could one of them be a big trade chip to get because obviously the Yankees are going to be buyers at the deadline, right? I mean, this is a team that has got to be in the World Series conversation. I mean, they've had hot starts obviously the last few years, but I mean, they've continued to be in that mix at the end of the year for the World Series. So I mean, they're going to have to make maybe they'll make a big deal.
Yeah, we'll see.
Mike, I haven't heard from you in a while, man. I feel like I need to give you some closing thoughts on something.
I will take advantage of that and shamelessly pour out my stories that I have coming up in the next couple days. I have a Jack Siebert piece coming out in Baseball America shortly. Go into detail with him about kind of refining his four-seamer and where that came from and what it's done for him. Kind of a rising prospect who just got to Somerset. We talked about him earlier in the pod. Number 17 prospect, according to Baseball America, in the system. Very strong debut. Nice kid. Struggled his first 3 years in college at South Florida, transferred to Texas Tech, and kind of found it out of their bullpen. Came to the system, skipped, I believe, the 15th round or 16th round or something like that. Came to the system, skipped Tampa entirely, went to Hudson Valley, shoved there, started out in Hudson Valley this year. Got to Somerset and pretty much picked up where he left off in Hudson Valley. So I have that. I have a DJ Gladney story coming up, I think tomorrow, at USA Today Network / mycentraljersey.com / Gannett / whatever it says on the paycheck. Interesting story there too. The guy's gotten off to a really good start at the plate for Somerset. It's kind of funny with all the power that they've had in that lineup. He came up as a really big power guy and hasn't really been that this year. He has 2 home runs so far, but he's hitting like 335, 340. So I don't know if he's maybe changed his approach a little bit. Maybe that's something you find out in the story. Maybe it's not. And then I have a Caleb Hamilton piece coming up, I think sometime next week, on Somerset's defensive coach. If you look at his big league stat line, I think you can kind of take a guess at what angle will be there. So that's what I have coming up, just to take advantage of getting a little talking time.
Yeah. And Matt, didn't you have an interview recently too? I guess you'll have at some point have a story out on somebody.
Yeah. Perfect timing because he just went deep. Kobe Morales just hit his 8th home run of the season. Okay. I sat down with him for a nice one-on-one last week for a story I'd imagine you'll probably see at some point drop over the weekend that I'm wrapping up. But, he's obviously has a ton of power that is starting to get unlocked. The power numbers really haven't been there for a guy that's always been hyped as a power first prospect. And he's now this year hitting for a high average, and the power is kind of emerging now. 8, he hit 7 all of last year. So he's already eclipsed his total from a year ago, barely a month into the season. So, JUCO guy who transferred to Washington for 1 year before getting drafted, was a late round pick. So he's got that, under the radar, smaller school kind of chip on his shoulder. And, he's right in the thick of this offensive onslaught that Somerset put out. So it was a good chat with him about what he worked on, what he thinks he needs to do to get to the next level, how he's kind of tapped into that power a little bit. So you'll be able to check out all that stuff on SomersetPatriots.com probably at some point over the weekend.
Okay. So, yeah, you're there. Mike's mostly MyCentralJersey.com, right, is where most of your stuff appears. And I'm Trentonian.com. We also, always plug our stuff on Twitter, so you can find it there. I think we've got our Twitters on a graphic here. Just look for them there because I don't even remember all of our handles offhand.
They're there in the scroll bar.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, there we go. Yes. At Matt Kardos, at Ashmore98, and at Greg P_J. There you go. And continue to follow us on YouTube, Spotify, Instagram. No, not Instagram. Oh, yes, we are on Instagram. Apple Podcasts.
We do have a podcast page on Instagram. Yeah.
Yeah. And listen, again, if anyone has not just feedback, but if you like anything you want us to talk about, man, just let us know because we're super receptive to talking about stuff. We're not going to ignore you. We're looking for we want to talk about things that fans want to hear about. So, if you have any questions, man, let us know. Anything you want to know about what's going on with the AA team.
That's one of the reasons why I brought up Ben Hess. That's probably the most asked question that I'm getting on social media lately from a lot of people is what's going on with Ben Hess. But you're the only person that has an on the record, at least, somewhat response as to where he is or what's going on with him. So I thought that was the perfect way to plug that because it's really not a question of mine, but I know a lot of fans have been asking that question. So similar premise, if you want to know, maybe something that's going on or have a question that you want answered or asked that, maybe we haven't thought of, just, the Twitter handles are here in the bottom. Tweet all of us, one of us, any of us. It doesn't really matter. And we'll, do our best to kind of get an answer or share some insight as to, what's going on or what's happening to kind of get some info your way.
Yeah, I mean, we'll hopefully be talking to manager James Cooper again at some point soon to also just get more general injury updates. And again, Hess and I'm sure Hampton are the main guys people want to know about. So we'll hopefully be bringing more updates on social media of that soon. And yeah, we're at an hour here now. So I guess that's probably a pretty good place to leave things for maybe a few weeks or so here until we're back.
Feels like a good time to wrap.
So we'll hopefully have more to talk about with some other prospects on the team now that George is gone. He definitely was the main attraction for April, but we it seems like there's never a dull day in Somerset. We'll keep having more. We'll keep finding more things to discuss as the season goes on here. So,
all right. Well, appreciate you, fellas.
All right. Thanks, guys, thanks for listening. Drop us comments. Please like and subscribe to our content, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks for listening, guys. Appreciate you.